But since this season is all about taking responsibility, it makes logical to revisit this partnership and consider how Barry has fallen short of being the trustworthy buddy Hank expected him to be. He and Cristobal are continuing to plan a hit after learning about Barry's collaboration with the authorities. He promises Hank that two podcasting brothers would produce the hit later in the day. The plot of You're Charming is built around the popular song and the dramatic irony that we know what Barry doesn't create suspense for the majority of the half hour. We watch as he follows through on the agreement, telling everyone about Hank and Cristobal's crime utopia, and confidently believing that everything will go according to plan, including Sally's involvement. Fuchs even attempts to save Barry's life while he is being held in a different cell block, but his concerns that something is wrong with the unique housing are disregarded. The relationship-based character climax and the action-packed plot climax are this episode's two main climaxes. The former is the phone call that Barry and Hank have over the course of 3 seasons, which pays off after a series of mostly humorous but occasionally menacing exchanges. Hank attacking Barry is very therapeutic, especially since there was a brief moment when it appeared that he would change his mind and perhaps consider refraining from the blow. Hank, however, promptly rejects Barry's plea for Gene's execution, telling him, "I've been nothing but a loving and good friend to you, and all you do is you take, and you take, and you take." Barry had asked for Gene to be killed. Even though this is a high-stakes crime thriller, it ultimately boils down to a friendship split. However, the episode's cliffhanger is what is most likely to linger with us for the next week, as we ache to know the answer to the episode's final question: where is Berkman? Barry can recognize a fellow hitman, even when they are not present, especially if they have the terrified demeanor of a podcaster-turned-killer, Fred Armisen, in the episode's second shocking cameo. In order to draw attention to the killer, he interrupts Agent James Curtis' explanation of witness protection. Before the killer can get close to his victim, the killer blasts off his own finger. Then, everything occurs quickly. The second shooter, who is concealed in the ceiling, kills all the surviving agents, but Barry is able to grab a weapon and shoot him while he is still perched. Barry is left unarmed and alone at the end of the entire action, allowing him to flee. It seems a little hurried if Barry's time in jail is already coming to an end. However, I'm as eager as ever to see what the last 5 episodes have in store, especially given that this most recent turn leaves a lot of doorways open. Barry and Hank are currently at odds, and he is even angrier with Gene because he is still the only source of proof for their story. From Gene's point of view, Barry had previously shown regret for the ways he injured him, killing his girlfriend, kidnapping him, and threatening his family, yet Gene still unfairly manipulates the facts to suit his own agenda. Of course, it's not entirely incorrect. To cover up the meeting with Lon O'Neill, Gene and his agent, Tom first break into his home in the middle of the day and dump his hard drive in the swimming pool. Gene, however, confesses it himself when Jim questions him about the encounter. "I exaggerated my story because of stage fever," he says. This week's peripheral character is Sally, who has put on some glasses and enrolled in an acting class to impart Gene's methods. This group of students initially appears to be ideal for it. Although the majority of them are aware that she is the entitled cunt girl, they concur that this shouldn't prevent her from sharing her knowledge. According to Sally's version of events, they can exploit the same rage and ugly behavior that she displayed in the lit for their own shows. Getting in touch with our ugliest selves can be beneficial. Sally appears to prove her point by using a classic Gene ploy, severely criticizing a student in order to compel her to do an enthusiastic performance. Kristen is correctly identified by Sally as an actress who secured a significant role based on her attractiveness and charm rather than her acting talent. Kristen rightfully becomes offended, yet this allows her to discover something real that had previously escaped her. The conclusion of this scene, though, when the class outright rejects Sally's teaching approach and denounces it as harsh, is still its best part. One youngster responds, "Just because it was done to you doesn't mean you have to do it to us." In some ways, Sally is perpetuating a cycle of abuse by using some of the obscene and cruel techniques Gene used to discipline her. On a deeper level, though, Sally must consider the 2 different partners who assaulted her in light of that accusation from her student. Sally's relationship with rage and violence has radically changed as a result of her long-standing understanding of herself as a survivor, which has rendered her unaware of the suffering she causes other people. She's beginning to realize that now, especially after committing a murder, self-defense is a simple justification for that violent conduct, but it was already obvious that Sally was motivated to carry it out in some way. She and Hank have demonstrated to us that anyone may be coerced into hurting another person, and can even take pleasure in doing so. Even while Barry plays a supporting role in his own series more and more, perhaps that is what makes him so nasty. Not only does he kill people, but even the ones who survive are destroyed by him. He is an evil energy that corrupts everyone he comes into contact with. And it's not just the Salas, Jeans, and Jims who fall victim to him. They are individuals like Hank, who merely desired a buddy but was provided with a selfish person instead.